You know what's really messed up? Most traders will tell you they're terrified of losing money. But here's the truth nobody wants to admit. Success terrifies them even more. Yeah, you heard that right. The same person who says they want to make consistent profits will literally sabotage themselves the moment they start winning. And I'm not talking about some motivational speaker nonsense here. This is real, documented psychology that's been studied for decades. And it's probably destroying your trading account right now without you even realizing it. Think about it. When was the last time you had a really good trading week? Maybe you made 3, 4, 5 winning trades in a row. Your account was growing. Everything clicked. You were following your rules perfectly. And then what happened? You either took some ridiculously risky trade that wiped out your gains, or you just stopped trading altogether. You found excuses. The market looked weird. You needed a break. You wanted to protect your profits. Sound familiar? This isn't coincidence. This is your brain actively working against you, because success feels more dangerous than failure ever could. And once you understand why this happens, trading becomes a completely different game. Let me paint you a picture. There's a trader named Mike. Mike spent 2 years learning technical analysis, studying candlestick patterns, understanding support and resistance. He blew through 3 accounts learning his craft. Classic story, right? But then something changed. Mike developed a solid strategy. He backtested it. He practiced on a demo account. He finally went live with proper risk management. And boom, he started winning consistently. 4 weeks of profitable trading. His account grew by 30%. He was doing everything right. And then Mike stopped trading. Just stopped. For 2 whole weeks, he didn't take a single trade. When he finally came back, he threw his entire strategy out the window and lost everything he'd made plus more. When someone asked him why, he couldn't really explain it. He just said it didn't feel right anymore. This is what psychologists call upper limit problems, and it's one of the most destructive forces in trading. See, every single person has an internal thermostat for how much success they believe they deserve. This isn't conscious. You didn't sit down one day and decide how successful you're allowed to be. This thermostat was set years ago, probably in childhood, based on what you saw, what you were told, and what you experienced about money, success, and your own worthiness. When you start exceeding that internal limit, your unconscious mind freaks out. It's like you're walking into unfamiliar territory, and unfamiliar equals dangerous to your primitive brain. So it does what it's designed to do. It creates sabotage to bring you back to familiar ground. Back to struggle, back to almost making it, back to where it feels safe, even if safe means consistently losing money. Here's where it gets really interesting. Failure is actually comfortable for most people. Not enjoyable, but comfortable. You know what failure looks like. You know how to handle it. You've got a whole identity built around being someone who's working towards success, someone who's learning, someone who's on the journey. But actually, being successful? That's terrifying. Because it means you have to become a different person. You have to let go of the struggling trader identity and step into being someone who actually wins consistently. And your brain asks some really scary questions when that happens. If I'm successful, will people treat me differently? Will my friends resent me? What if I can't maintain this success and everyone watches me fail from a higher place? What if success changes who I am? What if I become one of those arrogant traders I used to criticize? These questions create massive internal conflict, and the easiest way to resolve that conflict is to just fail. Go back to what you know. There's actual research on this from psychologist Gay Hendricks, who spent decades studying high achievers. He found that people have a limited tolerance for feeling good and being successful. Once they hit their upper limit, they unconsciously create problems to bring themselves back down. In trading, this shows up in dozens of ways. You might suddenly decide your proven strategy needs tweaking right when it starts working. You might take profits way too early on winning trades because you can't handle the anxiety of holding a position that's actually making good money. You might ignore your trading rules on position sizing and take a massive trade that risks everything. You might start trading markets you don't understand or time frames you haven't tested. You might pick fights with your spouse or create drama in other areas of your life that bleeds into your trading psychology. The pattern is always the same. Success builds, anxiety increases, sabotage happens. Relief comes from being back in familiar struggle territory. Now let's talk about another layer of this. It's called the imposter syndrome, and pretty much every successful trader has dealt with it at some point. This is when you're actually doing well, but you feel like a fraud. You think you're just getting lucky. You believe that any moment now, the market will expose you as someone who doesn't really know what they're doing. So you can't trust your success. You can't build on it. You're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. I talked to a trader once who made 6 figures in 1 year through disciplined swing trading. Incredible results. But she told me she barely enjoyed any of it because the whole time she was convinced it was just a fluke. She was certain the next year she'd lose it all and prove to everyone, including herself, that she wasn't really a good trader. That belief became a self-fulfilling prophecy. The next year, paralyzed by fear of being exposed as a fraud, she barely traded at all, and the few trades she took were emotional and poorly planned. Here's what makes this even more complicated. Society has some really weird programming around money and success, especially when it comes to trading. There's this underlying belief in many cultures that making money from trading isn't real work, that it's somehow less noble than earning money through labor, that traders are just gamblers or greedy capitalists taking advantage of others. Even if you consciously reject these ideas, they might be lurking in your unconscious, creating guilt around your trading profits. Your family might have believed that rich people are selfish, or that wanting money makes you shallow. Maybe you grew up hearing that money doesn't grow on trees or that you have to work hard, implying that trading gains come too easy. These beliefs create internal resistance to actually succeeding as a trader. Then there's the fear of visibility. When you're losing or breaking even, nobody really pays attention. You're just another person trying to figure out trading. But when you start winning consistently, people notice. Maybe you mention your good month to a friend, and suddenly they're asking you for stock tips or wanting you to manage their money. Maybe family members who struggled financially start looking at you differently, expecting you to help them out. Success makes you visible, and visibility makes you vulnerable to judgment, criticism, and expectations you might not be ready to handle. Some traders are also afraid of their own potential. Sounds strange, right? But think about it. If you prove to yourself that you can actually succeed at trading, that you can build real wealth through the markets, then you have to face a bigger question. What else are you capable of that you've been avoiding? What other areas of your life have you been playing small in? Success in one area often demands growth in others. And growth is uncomfortable. It's easier to stay mediocre across the board than to face how much you've been limiting yourself everywhere. There's also something called the ceiling effect. You might have an unconscious belief about how much money someone like you is allowed to make. Maybe that ceiling is $50,000 a year, or $100,000, or whatever number feels like the maximum for someone with your background, your education, your story. When your trading income starts approaching or exceeding that ceiling, internal alarms go off. You're violating the rules of who you're supposed to be. So you find a way to knock yourself back down below that ceiling. Loss aversion plays into this too, but not the way most people think. Standard trading psychology talks about how people fear losses more than they value gains. But there's a deeper layer. When you're losing or just breaking even, you have infinite potential ahead of you. You can still become that successful trader you dream about. But when you actually start succeeding, you face a different kind of potential loss. The loss of your dreams and identity. You can't be the aspiring trader anymore. You have to be the actual trader. And what if the actual trader isn't as impressive as the dream was? Let me share something that happened in the trading world that illustrates this perfectly. There was a famous experiment decades ago where psychologist Richard Dennis trained a group of people with no trading experience using his specific methodology. They were called the turtle traders. The rules were clear, proven, and profitable. Most of them made extraordinary returns. But here's the kicker. Many of them eventually abandoned the rules that made them successful. They started tweaking things, second-guessing, overriding the system. Why would someone abandon a proven, profitable approach? Because following someone else's rules, even profitable ones, didn't satisfy the ego's need to be independently successful. They'd rather fail being original than succeed following instructions. That's how powerful these psychological forces are. So what do you do about all this? How do you actually overcome the fear of success that's quietly destroying your trading results? First, you have to become aware of your personal upper limit. Pay attention to what happens right after periods of success. Do you create problems? Do you sabotage? Do you suddenly get sick or distracted? Do you break your rules? Track this pattern. Write it down. You can't change what you can't see. Second, you need to consciously raise your upper limit. This means doing the internal work to expand your tolerance for feeling good, for being successful, for having money. One way to do this is through visualization, but not the fantasy kind. Actually visualize yourself as a successful trader handling all the challenges that come with it. See yourself managing larger positions calmly. See yourself dealing with friends who might feel weird about your success. See yourself maintaining your values and identity while also being profitable. Make success feel familiar before it happens in reality. Third, separate your identity from your results. You're not your trading account. A losing trade doesn't make you a loser. A winning trade doesn't make you a winner. You're a person executing a strategy. This detachment is crucial because it removes the emotional charge from both success and failure. When success doesn't threaten your identity, it becomes much easier to accept and maintain. Fourth, get honest about your beliefs around money and success. Sit down and write out everything you believe about money, wealthy people, traders, and success. Don't filter yourself. Just write whatever comes up. Then look at that list and ask yourself where each belief came from. Is it actually true? Is it serving you? You'll probably find some beliefs that are actively working against your trading success. Once you identify them, you can consciously choose different beliefs. Fifth, build support systems that can handle your success. This might mean finding other successful traders to connect with, people who won't be threatened or weird when you do well. It might mean setting boundaries with people in your life who have unhealthy relationships with money. It might mean working with a trading coach or therapist who understands these psychological patterns. You need people around you who celebrate your wins without making them mean something bad about you. Sixth, redefine what success means to you beyond just money. If success is only about account size, it's too fragile and threatening. But if success means executing your plan consistently, managing risk properly, staying emotionally balanced, and yes, making profits as a result, then it becomes more sustainable. You're not just chasing money. You're becoming a more disciplined, skilled person who happens to make money trading. Seventh, practice staying in your body when good things happen. This sounds weird, but most people literally disconnect from physical sensation when they're successful because the emotion is too intense. They float into their heads, start overthinking, and create problems. Instead, when you have a winning trade or a profitable week, pause. Feel your feet on the ground. Take some deep breaths. Let yourself actually experience the positive feelings without immediately jumping to worry or analysis. This trains your nervous system to tolerate success. Here's the truth that nobody wants to hear. The market isn't your biggest obstacle. Your strategy isn't your biggest obstacle. Your biggest obstacle is you. Specifically, the version of you that's terrified of outgrowing your current identity and stepping into actual sustained success. Every trader who makes it to consistent profitability has to face this moment. The moment where success stops being a distant dream and starts being a present reality. And that moment is absolutely terrifying because it demands that you become someone new. Someone who doesn't just talk about trading discipline, but lives it. Someone who doesn't just dream about financial freedom, but handles the responsibility of actually having it. Someone who doesn't hide behind being a student anymore, but steps into being a practitioner. The traders who make it aren't necessarily smarter or more talented than those who don't. They're just willing to feel the fear of success and keep going anyway. They're willing to let go of comfortable struggle and step into uncomfortable achievement. They're willing to disappoint the part of themselves that wants to stay small and safe. So next time you're about to sabotage a winning streak, pause. Notice what's happening. Feel the fear. Recognize it for what it is. Not a signal that something's wrong with your trading, but a signal that you're approaching your upper limit. And then make a choice. You can listen to that fear and retreat back to familiar struggle. Or you can breathe through it, trust your process, and allow yourself to be successful anyway. Your trading account will never grow beyond what you unconsciously believe you deserve. Fix the internal thermostat, and the external results will follow. This is the work that actually matters. This is what separates traders who eventually make it from those who spend decades spinning their wheels, wondering why nothing ever changes, despite learning every strategy and indicator out there. The market will always be there. The opportunities will always be there. The question is, will you finally allow yourself to actually seize them? Or will you keep finding creative ways to stay exactly where you are, safe in familiar failure, protected from the terrifying possibility that you might actually be capable of everything you claim to want? That's the real question every trader has to answer.